about someone who withdraws from public school, or they would like to, maybe their child already has an IEP and they're thinking, if I take them out, I'm going to mess that up. Especially older kids like middle school and high school, and the parents want them out of public, but they think, how do I transition from public school IEP to homeschool mom
Hmm.
without knowing very much? Is that possible?
100%. I have parents who kind of keep a foot in the school and a foot in the homeschool so they can keep the IEP and the 504 plan. But the IEP provides specialized education to kids. And so it might, occasionally I hear of a school providing Orton Gillingham reading instruction or something like that. But generally speaking, they don't, or it's groups or it's online or something. And so it's not super effective. So an IEP simply gives your child access to methods and curriculum that meet their needs better, but you don't need permission as a homeschooler. You just choose the things that work and use them. And the 504 plan is accommodations. So that's allowing the use of a spell checker, allowing them to type, allowing them to speak their papers, allowing more time on a test. You don't need permission to do that either as a homeschooler. You don't need to continue to have that as a homeschooler either. It's not something that is it's not required by any state that you continue to have that. And there's a lot of flexibility with high school. I have a high school course that walks parents
Oh,
through
good.
modifying high school, because there's a lot of questions and a lot of fear because there are requirements. And so how do we meet them? And how do we think about meeting them? Are we going to suddenly stress and shove our kids back inside the box? Or are we going to continue to individualize their education to meet their needs and work? There are ways to work with the system to make sure they get the graduation requirements that they need to.
I think a lot of parents just feel that fear that there's so many more well-educated people out there who can handle this better than me, and I don't want to mess my kids up. But another thing I heard you say, I think it was on one of your podcasts, was that um, even the most educated teachers are not taught how to help kids with dyslexia, even the
Hmm.
ones with special education degrees.
Hmm.
This is an area that almost no one specializes in public education. And so
Hmm.
even if you
Hmm.
feel like, well, they've got to know better than me, that's not really the case. And
Hmm.
you know your child so much better than any expert.
Hmm.
I think that was very comforting to say, okay, even those special ed teachers don't specialize in this.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really shocking, really. I mean, people, that have a master's degree, like an advanced degree in learning disabilities, they still only get a little bit of information on dyslexia, and I don't even know how accurate it is. But there's no screening, although
Mhm.
that's changing. There was a podcast that came out. It's called, let me pull it up, Sold a Story, and I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's a
No,
podcast about how the public schools are falling short in teaching reading. So
statement right there.
yeah, they really don't. They just don't have the knowledge to know the signs. They don't have the training to know how to intervene. And a lot of times, for some strange reason, which I may never understand, they resist testing kids. They resist, trying to figure out what the problem is. So if you want to get tested, a lot of times in the schools, they want you to wait and wait and wait, and they just make it really difficult to get tested. And then once they do get tested, they are generally not even giving them the right kinds of interventions anyway. So it's a battle, and I think parents who are going through it maybe accept it, that this is just the way that it is, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. But I guess you have to go from relying on the schools to relying on yourself, which can maybe seem overwhelming. I think, yeah.